I broke up with my boyfriend over the most ridiculous thing. Okay, obviously, I know the breakup wasn't because of the argument itself, but because of his insecurity and the things he said. But the argument that led to this was so stupid. So I have two TVs set up in my living room. With my ADHD, it's hard for me to focus on one thing, so I usually play a game on one TV and have a show or movie playing on the other. And when my 24F now ex-boyfriend, 26M, who we'll call James, joins me for gaming, we each play on one of the TVs. Note, James didn't live with me. I'm a big fan of The Sims, and before anyone says anything in the comments, I know it's better on the PC, but I don't have the money for a PC that would support any games, let alone The Sims, so I play it on my PS4. Last night I was playing Sims 4 while James played Red Dead. Now, if anyone here isn't a player of The Sims, you should know that most people play the game mostly to torment their Sims or give them the messiest lives possible. So I was playing as a Sim who has several baby daddies and multiple side pieces while trying to become famous and making enemies left and right. Honestly, pretty tame for most Sims players' IMO. But James glances over at my TV and sees my Sim Elise romancing her latest conquest and says, "Isn't that a different guy than the one you were on a date with earlier?" Not thinking anything of it, I said, "Yeah, Elise has like 20 boyfriends and 3 fiancés." James lost his shit. He started shouting at me almost immediately, asking me why I would be playing as someone ran through, ugh, I hate that phrase, and unfaithful. I pointed out to him that it's just a game and I hadn't even been playing as a Sim of myself. Elise doesn't even look anything like me. Though, I fully believe this argument would have been insane even if the Sim looked exactly like me and had my name, because, you know, it's not real. James said none of that mattered because only a whore would be playing a game where you can do anything you want and make their character a passed around shut. He started calling me a cheater, insisting I must believe cheating isn't wrong if I play Sims like this instead of making faithful characters. I told him that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because I'm terrible at de-escalating things clearly, and pointed out that making loyal, nice Sims with good morals was boring because half the fun of the game is causing drama. Then I said it was ridiculous to assume I was doing any of the things I have my Sims doing because 1. I don't like drama in real life. 2. I'm a homebody and don't like interacting with people too often, so when would I be meeting all these people I'm cheating on him with? And 3. There is literally a man locked in Elise's basement that spends all his time making paintings and selling them to fund her lifestyle, and if he's worried about me cheating because my Sims do it, he should be checking my basement for captives. He said I was trying to distract him from my cheating and insisted on going through my phone. I told him there was no point. I wasn't going to keep dating a man who would call me a cheater and a whore because of a video game, and broke up with him. He yelled and shouted about this, proving his point. My refusal to let him go through my phone obviously meant I was cheating. The entire time I packed up everything he had laying around my apartment. I got all his shit together, handed him the bag, and told him to leave or I'd call the cops. I knew he would likely tell our mutual friend that we'd broken up because I'd cheated, but my mama raised a petty bitch. So as soon as he left, I sent a mass text to all our friends, my family, and his sister. I don't have his mom's number, but his sister is a gossip, so she'll tell her. I pasted the text below. Hey everyone, I just wanted to make you all aware that James and I are no longer together. James decided that me having a Sim in The Sims 4 that had multiple boyfriends meant that I must be cheating on him. James used this misguided belief to justify screaming at me and calling me names I won't repeat here. I know you're all aware that I don't believe in tolerating any mistreatment in a relationship, so it shouldn't surprise any of you that I ended things. Feel free to reach out through text, but I'm understandably emotional right now, so I might take a day or two to respond. I sent it before he made it home and got a chance to spin the story to fit his version, and so far the only people who've reached out all think it's just as ridiculous as I do. I blocked James and so far no one has said anything about his reaction to this, but I'm sure he'll be pissed. Our friends all seem to think he's insecure and acted like a child. Update. So I took a day to myself to cry and rage post my first post on Reddit before checking any of the messages I'd been getting from friends and family after I sent out my mass text. I'm still a little sad about the breakup, because even though he was an ass at the end, I did really like him before he showed his true colors. Luckily we'd only been together just short of 6 months, so at least I didn't waste years with James. People wanted to know about the reactions to my texts, so I figured I'd tell you all about the best/most important ones. One of my brothers showed up as soon as I responded to his text to let him know when I was ready to see anyone. He had a bag with him and, other than for work, hasn't left yet. It's because, in his words, dude's out here acting like a full-blown psycho over a video game and you live alone. So he's been sleeping on my couch with a bat next to him in case James decides to show up. I love my brother, even if he spends hours a day calling his girlfriend to talk about literally nothing and leaves his rancid socks all over my apartment. My mom said, and I quote, "I told you never to trust a man who has a roommate at 26. I've already mailed him a box of dirt." She's from, and has owned a house for 30 years in, the South where most property is dirt cheap compared to where my brother and I moved to for college, so she doesn't really understand that I'm an anomaly living alone here. As for the dirt, she does this any time one of my siblings or I go through a breakup that didn't end amicably. We asked her about it once and she said anyone can have an ex that keys a car, but no one will ever forget the ex that sent them a box of dirt. Don't let them forget you and they'll always regret you. She's not wrong and you can't get arrested for it, so it's a win in my book. Even if we told her to stop, that woman is crazy and will do whatever she wants. James's sister sent me a message telling me she ripped James a new one for his crazy behavior. She also said she was sad to admit I'd made the right choice because he didn't deserve me after that, but that I was her favorite girl he'd ever dated. Then she asked for permission to give her mom my phone number because she'd told her mom what happened and she wanted to speak to me. James's mom, I've only met her twice, but she called me to tell me she was sorry her son had acted that way and that she hadn't raised him to behave like this. She said she was really upset with him for screwing it up with me since I was her favorite girl her son had ever brought home. James's sister point 2, after my conversation with their mom, James's sister reached back out to tell me their mom had banned him from visiting their parents' house until I can stand to look at you again. That's apparently what she shouted into the phone before hanging up on him. This is also when his sister revealed that I was his mom's favorite of James's girlfriends because I was the only one to ever bring a gift when I came to meet his parents. Bribery works, everyone, I'm the proof. Once I started reading the messages I'd gotten during my me time, I found one from James's roommate and best friend, Paul. He messaged the night of the breakup letting me know he'd gathered everything around their apartment he thought might be mine and to let him know when I was ready and he'd meet with me to return my things. I messaged Paul and arranged for him to bring the stuff to my apartment, where I just barely managed to get my brother to wait in my bedroom instead of glaring at Paul the entire time he was there. Paul let me go through the bag to make sure everything in there was mine before we talked about some things. Apparently, last time James had a girl dump him, he broke all the stuff she'd left at their place, and Paul said he didn't want to see a repeat of that, so he'd gotten all my stuff and hid it before James got home. There wasn't much, and he missed a book I'd forgotten there last time I was there, but it was one I've read a million times and I got it at a yard sale, so I'll just buy another copy. Paul also informed me this is not the first time in our relationship James lost his mind over a video game. Turns out, when we first started dating I had mentioned that I had my character in Story of Seasons marry a woman, and he became convinced I was secretly a lesbian. At no point did he tell me he thought I was a lesbian. He never mentioned it to me at all. Instead, he spent 3 whole weeks ranting and raving to Paul about how I was definitely a lesbian, using him to hide my sexuality. It only stopped after we had sex for the first time. Because no lesbian has ever had sex with a man before. Paul didn't realize it had been the sex that triggered the end of his ranting. He'd thought James had finally listened to him and talked to me about it and we'd worked it out. So that proved to me I made the right decision, because clearly James has a lot of insecurities he needs to work out in therapy. Then Paul told me James had their friends over the night after our breakup and tried to tell them that I'd made the whole thing up for attention. According to Paul, even the ones that were never overly friendly with me because we didn't have much in common said it sounded like the opposite of something I'd do. I'm pretty well known for being not a fan of drama outside of games, movies, and books. One of their friends pointed out that James had complained to him that I dressed my characters in games like sluts, so the thing with The Sims didn't seem made up. That's when James pulled the whole "you're my friends, you're supposed to be on my side" thing. Most of them just kept quiet while he switched to complaining about me overreacting. Because now it's not made up, I guess? Paul said he and another friend of theirs said James was being a dick and should apologize, which started an argument that ended the hangout pretty quickly. Now James isn't talking to Paul and the other friend. Paul said he hadn't realized how misogynistic James was other than passing comments that he calls him out on. Now Paul is saying he's reconsidering their friendship. That was around the time my brother came out of my room, scaring the shit out of Paul because I forgot to tell him he was there, and admitted to listening to the entire thing. He then said we were going out and he was buying Paul a beer for not staying friends with that shithead. I think they're going to be BFFs now. They bonded over whatever was playing on one of the TVs at the sports bar we went to. James hasn't tried to contact me that I'm aware of. Maybe he hasn't figured out a way to get around being blocked, or maybe every one of our mutual friends ripping him to shreds in a group chat and his sister and mom being on my side made him realize he was being a POS. Either way, I'm enjoying having Elise sleeping with every sim except the one I created of him like some of you suggested. James's sim and Elise hate each other. To the point it's on sight if either of them shows up somewhere the other is. When I get tired of having her beat his ass, I'll lock him in the basement to make some more paintings to sell.